And again, this is the first board meeting for our Parks and Rec Board. And thank you all again for being here. Just to let you guys know, this meeting is being recorded. I do have my screen down in the back just as a visual reminder to everybody that our meetings are recorded. These meetings are also available on YouTube. We have a Kosciuszko County Government YouTube channel. So if ever you need to go back and view a previous meeting or Council, Commissioners, Redevelopment Commission, KCCRVC, they're all right there. So as part of our recording system and how everything works, this is your friend. His name is Mike. I know we have another Mike, but this is our friend. His name is Mike. So as you can hear me speak, you should be able to hear me through the speakers. So if you can hear me, the speakers hear me, YouTube hears me, we are of record. So green light means Mike's on. We're being recorded. So I always ask that at the beginning of the meeting, you please turn on your mics so they're green. When you speak, they do have to be relatively close. Because if the mic does not pick it up, you will not be part of the official record and it will not be available when it's being viewed. So I always like to tell people if you can kind of hear yourself in the background, you're close enough, but if you're not, you might want to nudge it just a little bit closer. So our second order of business is the oath of offices. So I do need each of you to take an oath of office. So if you would please stand, raise your right hand if you would like, and repeat after me. I, please state your name,
I, Mike Husker,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Indiana
and the state of Indiana
and the laws of the United States
and the laws of the United States
and the state of Indiana.
and the state of Indiana.
I will faithfully execute the duties
I will faithfully execute the duties
of my appointment
of my appointment
to the best of my skill and ability.
to the best of my skill and ability.
All right, thank you guys so much. I again appreciate your willingness to serve on our board, and I will have these available after the meeting for your signatures, and we'll file those appropriately. So our next order of business is election of officers. Let me turn to my page 2. So I do need to let you know that the election for this term is for the remainder of 2022. So per Indiana Code 36-10-3-8, at your first regular scheduled meeting of the year, every year you will elect a president and a vice president. The auditor will serve as secretary, as stated in our county ordinance 22-5-10-1. So at this time, I would like to open nominations for the board for someone to serve as president for the 2022 calendar year.
Sorry, not quite sure how this works, but I'll nominate Rob Bishop as president.
I
Right.
second that, if
Okay.
that works.
That's second. Okay. Are there any other nominations for president? Not seeing any, I will close the floor for nominations. I do have a motion from Mike, a second from Matt. So I would like to call for a vote. Everybody in favor of Rob Bishop serving as president for 2022, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Congratulations, Rob, on being elected president. The next nomination I need to receive is for vice president. So the board is open for nominations.
Okay. Hello, I'd like to nominate Troy Turley as vice president.
Okay,
I think we're good at this, but I'd do this, sounds like a good plan to me, too, so.
okay, Matt has a second. Any other nominations? Not hearing none, I will close the floor for nominations. I would like to entertain a vote. All of those in favor of Troy Turley serving as vice president for 2022, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much, Troy. Thank you, Rob. Look forward to working with you. And now I will turn the meeting over to Rob. But I'll stay close since I'm the next one on the agenda.
Well, it looks like the agenda you prepared, and thank you for preparing the agenda for us today, was an introductory discussion by yourself. Is that complete at this point, or do you have more?
Oh, I am all ready. And I will tell you, I have several pages to go over with you. Don't mean to overwhelm anybody, and again, YouTube channel, so if you ever need to go back and review it, please do so. So, as auditor, I just have several things. I did go over the Indiana Code. I reviewed the county ordinance, and I also reviewed the State Board of Accounts regulations on how the Parks and Rec Board is to operate. I've also provided copies of that to you all, as well as emailed that information to you. So just to kind of summarize what I did prepare and distribute to you, as the auditor, I will handle all the money on behalf of the board, and I am also bonded to do so. So the accounting system and all the forms that we use are certified and approved by the Indiana State Board of Accounts. As a board, the board is tasked to submit an annual budget. Again, as the auditor, I will work with you guys through that process at the appropriate time of year, supply the forms, make sure the conversation happens at the appropriate meetings, so that way that budget is filed timely. All claims for expenditures must be signed by both the president and the vice president. And then we will follow the county's already established claims process. So you currently have a non-reverting donation fund that has been created for the board. That is one of the ordinances that I prepared for you. So just to let you know, at this time, there was a donation from the Kosciuszko County Community Foundation and a total of $7,600. Those funds are earmarked to support a master parks and trails plan. So again, that is a non-reverting fund, so that cash is in that fund for you to use when you get that point in that project. That donation fund is also available for other donations as they come in and will always be secured specifically for the Parks and Recs Board. Annually, a report has to be given to the council and commissioners on the operations of the board and the status of any Parks and Recs programs that we have going on. This report can either be given in person, and I can schedule a time for you and a meeting date to present it to the council and commissioners, or this could be a written report that you can provide to me, and then I will pass along to the council and commissioners for review. So that is an option. It doesn't have to be a face-to-face meeting, but that report and that information does have to be provided annually. So at a minimum, the board's required to meet every quarter. So in 2022, we've all agreed to meet monthly, as this is a new board and we're trying to create that foundation and find that path for going forward. So we've all agreed to meet on the second Thursday of each month for the remainder of 22. So at your December 17th meeting, I will have on your agenda to set your meeting dates for 23. So as we start working through things, keep in mind if we want to continue to do monthly or if we want to go to quarterly, but the statutory requirement is at least quarterly. So in addition to the responsibilities that I've already stated, as secretary for you, I will attend every meeting. I will advertise and post your meeting dates and times. I will prepare the agendas and distribute your meeting materials. We will prepare the minutes for you. We will manage the Park and Rec Board page on the county website. So on the county website, what that will include is the meeting dates, your agendas, your approved minutes, so they will not be posted until you actually approve them, and your board names. We also have the ability to place your phone numbers and your email addresses on that county website if you would like. But I would say that since you are a volunteer board, Those would be your personal phone numbers, your personal email addresses. So please don't feel obligated to do so. And as your secretary, and I do have a county email and a county email, or phone number and email address, I would be more than happy to be the primary contact for you on the county website. And then any inquiries that I receive, I would pass on to the board then to discuss and answer. But that is up to you guys. And lastly, I'm just here to be of assistance and support and encouragement in anything that you decide. If I can be here to help you and support you in any way, that's what I'm here for. Any general questions, if I don't know, I can typically get them to someone who does. So I think my only open question for you is, as far as the county website, would you like your personal email and phone numbers there, or would you like for the county auditor to be that primary contact person for the board?
I know I'd rather you do that, and what I would like the county to consider is maybe a generic email address for the Parks Board, maybe parksandrec@kcgov.com, so that those emails are all split out separately.
Okay, I will discuss that with IT, and I will be the primary contact until we can get that in place.
Okay?
All
If
right,
that meets everybody else's approval.
okay.
Sounds good.
And do you have any questions for me at this time?
Michelle,
Yeah.
this is real minor. When you said when we're meeting, it's the third Thursday.
It is the third Thursday. Did
think
I
you
say
said-
first?
I just wanted to correct it for the public record.
My apology. Yes, the third Thursday is what we've decided for this year.
So some of this process, as I said earlier, is new to me. This is being recorded, which is great, but what aspects need to be part of the public record? Decision-making, those type of things, and what aspects can happen through, other meetings during the month, emails, et cetera?
Yes, that is an excellent question. And as an official county board, you are subject to the open door law, which means, as a board as a whole, at our advertised meeting dates, you can meet as a whole. You can have a quorum, you can have discussion, you can make decisions, and it all has to be in the open public meeting. Since you are a board, you are not allowed to meet outside of your regular scheduled meetings in a quorum. 2 of you can meet, but 3 of you cannot. No decisions can ever be made about business going forward in those meetings because everything does have to be public record and available for public inspection.
Great, thank you.
Anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. The next item on the agenda was comments from Commissioner Groniger.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. You're now part of county government.
Seems like I have.
Yeah. Seems familiar, doesn't it, Rob? So first of all, I do want to thank you guys and appreciate you willing to step forward and wanting to serve our community in this way through this park board. This is something that, I'm personally passionate about, and I know you are too, or you wouldn't be on this board and volunteered. So thank you again for stepping forward and wanting to serve this way. From there, I guess just a little bit maybe how we got here. To start out with, this whole process kind of started about 2.5, 3 years ago when the community foundations kind of started their hometown chats. For those of you that have been around, they still went around to all the small communities and kind of had one-on-one chats with the residents there that rolled into requesting a comprehensive plan, which a Forward Kosciuszko went on for about 18 months, 20 months through the worst of COVID here. And we ended up with a comprehensive plan just recently. I think in June, the last of the communities voted for that, so that's all in place. But through that process, both the hometown chats and also the Forward Kosciuszko and others, but those being a couple major ones, there was a constant thread through those processes that they wanted to see Kosciuszko County be more engaged in the recreational activities of our county and how we can promote that countywide. So, and I think it was the timing was right, kind of coming out of COVID and realizing how important those trails and outdoor recreational activities can be for your sanity. I think that it kind of got everybody thinking about what could we do to move this forward. So, this was something that just recently that the commissioners moved forward with establishing this board. And, you are board members, but I guess kind of wanted to give you maybe a little vision of what the county was looking for or hoping for as we would move forward. I think the key thing that I would see, you're going to find there's a lot of support both in the commissioners and the council for this board, and they really want to see some projects move forward. But I will say we're a pretty conservative bunch that we don't like to spend money on things that we don't feel as though are going to add the value or give the ROI that we would maybe like to see. So I think that we're going to have to be a little careful of how we walk that dog forward, that we don't, we don't have eyes bigger than our stomach as far as projects that we're trying to tackle and what we're trying to do. But at the same token, I know currently there is an awful lot of funds and grant monies out there, and I'm going to get into a little bit of that here in just a second. So I think that we want to see what those low-hanging fruit kind of is, that we can really start to put some points on the board early, because I think there's a lot of opportunity in our community. There's a lot of communities already doing a lot of great things. There's a whole ride walk committee that, in fact, we just met this morning, that's really helped push this along as well. It was a lot of the input from the people on that committee at those events that helped bring awareness and the knowledge of the desire for the community really wanting these types of things. So, as we would look forward, I would say, some of the things the commissioners are really looking to you to really kind of move and push forward with is trying to get that master parks plan and master trail plan. Those are going to be our keystones. That's going to be our roadmap on how we're going to move forward with. Because I think that, those are going to be the key things. There is those that have served on the ride walk. There is a plan that's been put together there. I think it's been a few years ago, and some communities already have their own plan. But I think it's something we really want to step back, take a hard look, and what does that look like countywide now versus individually? Because that was one of the big things I think we heard in the Forward Kosciuszko was that connectivity. They really want that connectivity between communities, between recreational assets that are out around the county. So I think when we start talking about that, that really brings kind of the whole trail and I would say greenways and blueways kind of to the forefront. That I would say that's probably a focus that I think the council, I don't want to speak for the council, I'm not a council person, but I know for the commissioners, that is something that definitely is top on their priority of, we're not really looking to create more parks that add budget as far as the maintenance of those and the cost to build those, but we are looking at how can we get more connectivity to the assets that we already have. We are so blessed in this county to have the number of lakes that we have and the opportunities that we have recreationally, naturally in our county. But I think that there's still room for improvement and access to those, because that would be one of the other things as we would look forward at this trail plan and master parks plan. I think a goal would be that there's accessibility to the whole county to these types of assets, not just the communities, but even the rural communities, whether there's a trail, whether you guys come up with a set number of miles that you want an asset within 5 miles of everybody in the county or whatever that might be. And I'm not saying this is going to happen overnight, but those are, I guess, some long-range goals that I could see you want to try and set of how we could make those outdoor recreational activities or resources available to everybody in the county, I think is going to be key. I think as we look for the department, the budget, I know that Marcia, and I can't remember, we have put a budget together for them for 2023 because the budget process is started. And we can talk more about that, what that is. I mean, it's enough to cover the ongoing expenses. But I will say there are opportunities, whether that's funding from, EDIT or other sources in the county, that when you come up with some projects, those are going to have to be brought back to the commissioners, brought back to the council. If it happens to be an ARPA fund, the ARPA committee would get involved as well. But I do think that there are funding sources available when you can really bring those projects forward and we can see a clear path forward that could really finish a project. So I think those are all good things to be looking for. So as the other thing I would say is currently this environment, I kind of call it funny money that's kind of floating around out there that there's been a lot of federal funds pumped into the system in the last few years to help with the recovery from COVID. And there's an abundant number of buckets of grant opportunities that are out there. So I think as you look forward and look to try and get this parks plan and trail plan built, I think time is a little bit of the essence, because I think some of those funds, they're available now, so I think the sooner that, I'm not trying to push you quicker than what you would want to move, but I do think that the sooner we can have a plan, because most of those grant opportunities, you need to have a plan. It's not just, we're gonna build a bridge to nowhere or a trail to nowhere. There needs to show a master plan of how that's gonna connect, how that's gonna benefit the community. So would encourage you to look at that. Trying to read the rest of my notes here. I think we talked a little bit around already on just some of those, trying to identify some of those low-hanging fruit projects that might be able to come up early. I do know that there's a whole HELP grant program, which I don't know if any of you guys have been involved with. I know some of the other people have. There were some nominations through the HELP program for the wellness and quality of place, that there was trails nominated as projects as part of that. So I would encourage you to make sure, there may be some of those things that are coming forward, and those selection of those projects are actually going to be happening really quick, like here the first part of September. So there's some matching dollars with HELP there, and I'm happy to kind of give you a more detailed, we actually have a community coordinator for that, and I would probably suggest that would even be some people you would want to invite to one of your meetings coming soon. Her name's Amy Rowe. She's the Kosciuszko County Community Coordinator for us. Some of you have probably already met her, but she's kind of leading the charge on HELP and can really fill you in on all the details and some of that. I know that there's multiple community members that are serving on those different pillars in HELP that are selecting some of those projects. Some other assets here that I just make you aware of as you would move forward. James Turnwald from MACOG. I don't know how many of you heard of him, but he's located up in South Bend, but the county pays an annual membership with his organization. And his organization is key from a grant funding perspective, especially anything to do with NDOT transportation. I mean, they have a full staff of, probably 20, 25 people there that can really bring some great resources to the table to help you. Because I know in passing, I know there's been conversations that the parks plan might even be something they would be willing to even do for us at a pretty minimal charge, since we pay them a fee. I don't want to promise you that, but I know that was as talked about. They were the ones that helped Marshall County stand up their parks plan and trail plan in the last couple years. So, I mean, they're very familiar with what needs to happen and how that might look. So that's another great resource. Another resource that I think that's right here housed in our county, or in the county building, Bill Holder from our GIS office, which he does all our mapping, all the GIS. So, I mean, if you're really trying to trying to identify some of those assets or what's about his office is just right around the corner out this door, he could really help you with mapping and some of those sources that are kind of your disposal to use and try and help build some of that stuff out. I know the big master trail plan and the parks plan, those are all going to be consultants that are doing that work, but I think there are some things as you're looking at projects, just better understanding the county and what assets we have that we'd want to try and work with. Bill could be a good asset for you to talk with. So, from there, this is something that the county, the people have been requesting, and we're trying to move forward, even before our forward Kosciuszko County plan was even fully voted on. I mean, we were already moving forward with establishing this parks plan. So this is something that I think you're going to find a lot of support for. And, we're just really excited what this can do for our community, because we really feel in today's environment, we've got to create a county that people want to live in. We've got to have these amenities, and recreational activities is one of the top things that people request when they're looking to where they want to move. Because with the remote work and the other things we have, it's really about people can live where they want to live and live the lifestyle or live in the environment they want to. They can remote work in. It's not like they have to be within so many miles of a factory or a business anymore. And I think Kosciuszko, is prime for growth for that reason, with the number of assets that we have of our natural lakes and just the settings that we have here, the quality of life that we all share. I think is something that is in high demand. You know, and I think if we can create this environment with even more recreational activities, that's something that's going to better all of our lives. So from there, if you have any questions for me, happy to answer anything. You know, excited to see you guys all here and be able to move forward, so.
Well, I certainly appreciate both the passion and vision you shared with us today. Speaking for myself and probably everybody, we're just a little like, what are we gonna hear today? So
Right.
I appreciate that. Any comments, questions for Commissioner Verniger?
You can just call me Kerry, too. I'm like Michelle, I'm here to serve. You know, I wear a lot of hats here at the county as well as in the community, so, you know, great resource here. Have any questions, don't ever hesitate to reach out to me. I'm happy to help you out any way we can, so.
This is probably a question for Michelle, I would think. But I'm the kind of person, if I have an idea pop in my head, I like to be able to discuss it with these guys right away. So am I understand this correctly? We can only discuss these ideas during this time? Is that, I mean, I want to make sure, I have raised my right hand, but I also am concerned about this because an hour doesn't seem like enough time. I mean, if we have things that we have got to discuss, you know, it seems like we need to be able to.
Michelle, maybe if I jump in, both being an attorney and having run a governmental board before, we have to be very careful about meeting outside of our meetings. And if we were to email back and forth, not only would that probably be an improper board meeting, but it's also all subject to Freedom of Information Act. So you probably don't want your personal emails being subject to searches either. So if we need to expand the meetings, and quite honestly, I sort of expect we're going to have to get all this done. Let's look at doing that. You know, one of the great things that the county has done is provide the YouTube channel that everybody can look at and see what we're doing. I'd much rather do that, and then we're absolutely transparent, and nobody's going to come back and say they didn't know what was going on. They may choose not to listen, but that will be their choice.
Is it appropriate to bring a topic up by email to be put on the agenda, but not discussed by email?
Absolutely. So
Okay.
any of those topics that you have, get to me and I will get on the next agenda. What some other boards have used in the past that have had the same dilemma is they have created some subcommittees. So they have appointed, you know, 2 individuals of the board to work together. Like for you guys, maybe one on blueways, one on greenways, one on trails. And then the 2 of you can brainstorm, do the work, utilize Carrie and I as a resource. So then when you do come to the next board meeting and it's a topic, then 2 of you have already done the research, have the information, and you're really just presenting it to the board. So that is completely allowed because you're not in the quorum, you just have the 2. And that has worked really well in the past for other board projects that we've had going on.
Maybe we could do that, Rob. Maybe
We could. What do you all think of inviting MegCog to come to the next meeting and give us a better idea of what they think we ought to do? I will also say, and thank you for Michelle, if you haven't seen this page, it says DNR planning page. If you haven't looked at those links, that there is actually a master plan and directions on how to do a master plan. But I think if we can get MegCog to at least come down and tell us what we're supposed to do, we'll have a better job of being successful.
Because I would say, I know just because they kind of walked us through the same scenario with the Forward Kosciuszko, the comprehensive plan. I mean, they'll help write the RFP for a request for proposal, send it out, gather those bids for you, help you, you know, analyze them and what they feel as though would be, you know, some of the best move forward for you. And they're a tremendous resource that have been a huge help to our community. So, I mean, I very much would encourage you to reach out to James and make that a priority.
Well, with the board's approval, I'll do that. If he comes back and says, I need 2 hours, then we'll indicate the meeting will be 2 hours instead of 1 hour, or whatever we need to do is appropriate. That's, again, okay with the board.
Yep, sounds good.
Does that make sense also with Ride Walk Committee at this point, or should we meet with MACOG first and then with?
Why don't we invite them all to that next meeting if that's and Amy and Ride Walk, and put out the call to our friends and associates throughout the
Yeah.
community.
Start rallying the troops.
Yeah. So I have a question related to timeline. So looking at the DNR information and the 5-year master plan, if we wanted to be eligible for grant funding next year, we need to have the early plan in by November 15th.
Right.
Is that, with the resources available and the planning that's already been done, is that realistic to try for that?
Carrie, have you guys talked about that? I mean, I've been looking at all the work that's already been done with Ford, Kosciuszko, and everything else. I sort of wondered, can we just integrate that and send them?
Well,
Because the secondary piece, right, it's another 2 years if you miss that date, because I think there's cycles
Yes,
every
you're-
other.
I
Yeah,
think
now
that
that's for
you are
state funding.
correct.
But,
You
you
are
know,
correct.
We'd missed the state funding cycle.
Right.
Yeah.
So I do think that James could help with speak into some of that, from a perspective, from a timing and how much of that, because they specialize in filling out a lot of those grant opportunities for you. That's a pretty tight, I mean, I would say that would be breakneck speed. But I understand the time crunch and why it's important. But I'm also trying to be a realist of what can really be done. I think those would all be questions, and, you know, I would even probably start that conversation with James before the meeting next month, that you're not waiting a month before you even ask the question. That, you know, if some of those questions be put in email format, sent off to him, I think those would all be things that he could probably help with. I mean, it's not that we haven't been priming the pump and he doesn't know it's coming, so, but at the same token,
Yeah.
there's only so much we could do until the board was formally established and we could really move forward, so.
And we'd also have to, I mean, I know there's a master plan, but if we're asking for money, it should be earmarked for something specific. So I don't know if we'd want to push too quickly.
Well, and what I don't know is sometimes those requests that they have, you know, there is hard deadlines for the initial filing, but then there can be supplemental, improvements to the plan. Because I understand when it's a 2-year cycle, you hate to have to wait 2 years before you're gonna be able to apply. So I realize the urgency in whether or not that's James or whether that's even Michelle making a call to the DNR and asking them, you know, what would those guidelines be and how complete of a plan do we have to have? You know, Ride Walk has a pretty good plan already. I think that there's gonna be some definite tweaks to it, but, you know, the parks plan, you know, there's nothing formally ever been done on a parks plan in the county. So, I mean, that one, but I could see both of them taking some time.
As we get into just a general question, obviously, as we talk about connecting communities, there's probably going to be some land access issues and questions. And you mentioned some of our partners, but who are our partners in the county that will help assist with that?
Well, I think as we would go from a, you know, pie in the sky plan to a formal, this is a project, you know, I think that's where, you know, that this initial trail plan, my hope would be as they're going through, they're looking at the locations that they're picking. It's not just a, you know, a highlighter and a line across the field. I mean, they've actually drove the road or looked at the property. They know what the red flags are. Oh, there's a cemetery there. Oh, there's a river we have to cross, or whatever the obstacles would be. I think they're gonna help you get to the point where it's almost that initial viability of the plan that you would look at. And then I think as you would say, this is a project we want to move forward into engineering, that's when you would come to the council or the commissioners and ask for dollars and say, hey, this is a project we'd like to move forward. We think these grant opportunities are out there, but we would like to get the initial engineering done, and that's going to cost $30,000. Would you, and I think as we move forward, we didn't budget any monies like that in your current budget for 2023, just because, I mean, everything's so new, we didn't want to allocate dollars till thought we were going to be ready. But that doesn't mean you can't come back to the commissioners. We have contractual and other things that we can pull monies out of if we have a need that we can get behind. So I think I think the key is trying to get that plan initially, so you know the validity of the paths that you're trying to pick, and then I would probably pick specific projects, and then probably start to get your hands around we'd like to do an RFP for engineering for the trail that connects Winona Lake and Pearson, or I know there's engineering going on already between North Webster and Syracuse, those types of things that, you'd ask for that money, and that's when you would really get into the land acquisitions, because that's gonna be the thing that I would caution you on, is when we're looking for these first projects, that we want to be something that is gonna get the community behind it versus you're having to take property away from a bunch of people to gain right of way, to put a trail in. Those are the types of things that aren't gonna be super popular. So I think if we can start with some of those easy wins, and they can see how much people use them, and how we only lack this 1 mile, but we've got to get property from 6 property owners. I think once you can build that case so they can see what it can do to the overall trail system, that's when you're gonna have to have those tougher conversations. But I think starting out, you're gonna wanna look for those trails that there's right of way there, or friendly property owners, or individuals that wanna be part of the process.
In addition to inviting the Ride Walk Committee.
Troy?
In addition to inviting the Ride Walk Committee, would it be helpful if we kind of had them bring us up to speed with where they are, so that invite them to actually present their information to us so that we can get familiar with it or reacclimated?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So I put down in my notes to invite Ride Walk and MACOG and reach out to the various Parks Board presidents, department heads, whatever, throughout the county. Really try to throw a big net to see if they'll come participate in that. Because something I see us doing is sort of linking all those together. So it's the gaps between the communities that I think are a little bit of our focus.
Right. And if you look at the forward, there's a lot, I don't know how much time, did you send them the forward Kosciuszko comprehensive plan? Okay. I mean, there's a lot of information in there, and there's actually a comprehensive plan for each one of our small communities, except for Winona Lake, Warsaw, and Syracuse. But they've identified a lot of the assets in those small communities. So, I mean, there's a lot of good information there that's already there that, can start to get your creative thoughts going on how that might work best to connect them. So, because I mean, I think as we get a consultant, the key about consultants, they're only as good as the input you give them when they come and ask for information. So, if all they hear is crickets when they ask for information, they're going to make their best assumptions, versus the people that are here driving the roads, riding the trails, or in the community, they're going to know what might work, or what those key pathways or key assets that people want to get to.
So as we're looking at wanting to coordinate with other planning efforts underway, I'd love to get opinions related to planning for changes to US 30. Because if we want trails to cross over, we'd want to have that be kind of active in that decision-making. And I'm not familiar enough with Ride Walk. Are they already at planning in that way, or would this be something?
Well, I can bring you a little bit up to speed on the US 30.
Yeah.
I said on the coalition, US 30 coalition, that is really starting to become a reality. The consultants have been selected to do what's called a PEL study, planned environmental linkage study, all the way from the Ohio state line clear up to State Road 49, which is Valpo, then up 49 to the toll road. So the whole idea is to connect the toll road north of Valpo to pretty much the Ohio state line there on US 30. So that study is in process. I mean, there's already projects because of Amazon, Sweetwater, and the development that's happening just west of Fort Wayne currently. There's already several interchanges in process, that have DES numbers as far as a project identification number with the DOT already I think it's 2025 or 2026 before those are gonna be built. So this PEL study is kind of the first step in what we would be looking for, and part of that will be public input on what they would like to see and concerns. I know as the mayor, he chairs the US 30 coalition, but we've had several public meetings already on US 30. I know there's been some recent things in the paper about it. There's no set plan yet. NDOT will make those final decisions, but it is going to be key that stakeholders in the community, go to those meetings, give their input, voice their concerns. So because you're right, US 30 is a huge roadblock in getting traffic, especially pedestrian or bike traffic, from north of Warsaw to the north side of 30. So I think as we're looking through that, we would definitely want to make sure we're making provisions for those overpasses or underpasses or interchanges, that they would be bike and pedestrian friendly. So great point that you're going to want to make sure. But fortunately, all that's happening. So, I mean, it's going to be like getting a drink from a fire hose. I mean, everything's kind of coming at once, but at the same token, I do think that there's a lot of opportunity here that we can really set that platform for good progress forward, so.
I can tell you there are plans right now, but as Gary mentioned, that it's gonna alter, they're gonna have to change because the plans were with 30 as is.
Okay.
You know, like there was a thought about a bridge going across or things like that, which we may not even need in the future, that.
Because there is information, US 30 Coalition, forget what the website is, it's on our website, on our county website too, there's a link, I think, to it. That there's information that shows some of that preliminary engineering that's been done for the city of Warsaw and some of the stuff that the county's done. But I do think that those public meetings will probably be happening in September. I know we have a kind of intergovernmental meeting here later this month with some of them, kind of preliminary, and then there'll be multiple public meetings, probably in I would even say in multiple communities across the county, like Etna Green and Pearston and Warsaw, just because of the geographical distance, that they're required to have so many meetings. So there'll be some good opportunity for public input, but I will say that the NDOT input process can be a little bit cold. I mean, it's not a two-way communication. You get up at a mic and you tell them, I'm concerned about getting across US 30. They write it down. They don't answer the question. But it's all input that's put into that the consultants use to try and engage that barometer of what they need to be looking for as they're trying to do some design. And what they'll do in this Pell study isn't like you're gonna have a fully engineered set of drawings that shows every bridge and how it's gonna be built. It's still conceptual, but it's to the point that they know it's viable and it'll work versus, us getting on there with our highlighters and say we want to interchange here, not knowing that there's wetlands there or, some sort of protected species or whatever that might be in the grounds.
Any
Good
other
questions.
questions or comments for Carrie?
If not, again, appreciate you guys serving, here to help any way we can. Lots of opportunities and excited to see where this is going to take us. So thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
So for our purposes, is there anything anybody wants to add today? Anything they want to see on the agenda that we haven't talked about for next meeting?
Yeah, I have a couple items, actually.
Okay.
One, I was approached by a member of Ride Walk that they're requesting that a Parks Board member be a member of Ride Walk. So I didn't know if that's something that we could discuss today and perhaps identify someone from this group that can join that committee.
I am on the Red Walk.
Yeah. I think the only concern would be there's various people with representing other interests. Like, are you representing Grace or just in general? I
I
don't
don't know. I
that's-
don't think I'm
okay.
representing an actual entity.
Okay,
No.
no, that's fine,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Then that
if-
may cover it then.
If somebody's got a desire, that's fine. If we invite them next meeting, they explain more and that spurs somebody's interest, that's certainly fine with me as well, whatever everybody's pleasure is.
I'd recommend Greg Demopoulos if we would want to have him come. He really is invested in the Red Walk.
Yeah.
And
But I
is-
think we're talking about just inviting that whole
Yeah.
that whole
We'll
team.
reach out to whoever the chairman is
I
and let
understand, I
them.
misunderstood your.
Yeah.
But until
request.
then, I think, yeah,
Yeah.
if you're on that committee, you
Yeah.
represent unless there's a different need. That makes sense.
Great.
And then the other thing I was thinking was, again, it's the first meeting. I think we all want to move fast, so I apologize. But this whole idea of the subcommittees, I know we're talking, it's another month to have MACOG come back and Ride Walk and talk about it. Do we want to create some subcommittees to maybe dive a little deeper on the DNR grant process and understand the timing and the requirements or MACOG itself, Ride Walk itself, and then the other piece would, I just foresee, Carrie talked about the the importance of having healthy activities for our community, but also attracting and retaining people into our community. I think there's just a whole economic piece to this as well that I think we'll need to have to support our activities, to understand the economic impact of some of what we're doing. So maybe it's too early for the subcommittees, but I just throw that out. Is that something we want to consider now?
You know, I guess from my perspective, even if that subcommittee only does some lifting for the next meeting to get us ready for the next meeting, I think it'd be worthwhile. I know that a friend of Mike and I stumbled across a person from the DNR down in Indianapolis, and so Mike has already communicated by email. So I would certainly suggest Mike be on a DNR committee. Would anybody like to join him on that?
I'd be happy to join you on it.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
So we'll establish a DNR subcommittee. I think MACOG is its own subcommittee, and I'd like to run that. Troy, would you like to help me with that?
I sure would.
Okay. Mike, were you suggesting any other subcommittees at this time?
Again, I don't, probably, we already have Matt representing Ride Walk, so I don't know if we need a subcommittee there, and plus they're coming. But again, I think the economic piece, but I don't know if it's worth going deep on that yet until
think
we
it's
have
too early for
projects.
that.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Matt, can I leave Ride Walk to you for the next meeting then?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So a related question, but a little bit of a tangent, but it also goes back to something that Rob said earlier. In the documents we received in advance, it looks that there could be an advisory role for municipal parks boards. And we could maybe have someone sit on their board as an advisor and vice versa. And I don't know if we want to start to talk about that or if it's premature. I was trying to sort out how many of our municipalities have parks boards, and Warsaw and the town of Winona and the town of Syracuse do. I don't know of others, but, I mean, there could be, and I didn't find it in my search.
I would think that's in the forward Kosciuszko plan, because they reached out to pretty much all the communities as part of that. But it's a great idea. Again, if we invite them to our next meeting, they choose to come and we can open that door, I think it'd be awesome.
Especially if we're trying to fast-track planning, rather than saying, we have a long time to plan, if we're trying to fast-track it, whatever we do will probably be better received if we invite them to our table.
Well, I would also think between the plan and some of these communities may already have started talking to each other on how they would connect, right? But they
Yeah.
probably need this entity to help do that too. So,
Yeah.
so is the action to invite them to identify them and invite them to this
Yes.
next meeting? Okay.
Yeah, I believe it is. Does everybody agree with that?
Yep.
Yeah,
And you're taking that action?
I am taking that action.
Thank you.
I know that Craig from Winona Lake was very interested in getting this started. I saw him at the ribbon cutting for the new bike park entrance, and so I think,
One other thing to add, when you said Craig, it reminded me, Winona Lake has already received a $30,000 grant from the State Board of Health for a trail planning grant. He has already talked to the State Board of Health, and they're willing to allow that scope of work to expand to the whole county. So Winona Lake is willing to contribute their $30,000 grant that they have from the health department towards a countywide plan. Now, this is all conversations we've had. I don't know if there's been a formal board vote and those types of things, but he has had conversation with the State Board of Health. They're fine with it. In fact, they just see even bigger impact, so they're even more excited about it. So there is some additional monies that has already been kind of stood up and said they're willing to put into the pot for that master trail plan.
so that raises a good question I thought about. So if somebody wants to donate to the Parks Board, does that donation have to be accepted by us only, or does it also have to be accepted by the commissioners of the council?
So I think you need to read the documents particularly, because I know when you read the document that we put together, it is different than what the state is. We restricted what your ability was as a parks board just because we didn't want to end up with multiple properties and somehow we've got $1 million budget we're trying to fund.
Right.
So, but I think from a cash perspective, they don't need our vote to accept, is that correct?
The only thing that I would say is if you're accepting those dollars and they're designated for a specific project, that project should be approved by the council and commissioners prior to. Because then if not, we could receive several donations on different projects. And then we're either holding those monies for years and years and years till we get there, or we're trying to fund all these projects at the same time. So knowing that that parks plan was going to be probably our first project because we can't get other funding without it, we did accept the dollars from the foundation to get us started. But yeah, if someone wants to donate money for a specific project, that project would need to be approved by the council and commissioners first, then we could accept those dollars.
Thank you. Any other business for today? Then I will accept a call to adjourn.
I'll make the call to adjourn.
We are adjourned.
The recording has stopped.
It was sure nice meeting you. I'm looking forward to working with you. So you seem like you have a passion I can tell just by looking at people's eyes. She's got those eyes like, I want to get stuff done. Me too. I don't like to just talk about things. I want to do things.
So the table's not in front of you.
Where do we stand?
Just right here. That's good. Stand in front of you.